need help. But still you try so hard to cover up your games. You try so hard, hoping that one day something's gonna change. You waste all of your time covering up your tracks. Spend all your days running away. You gotta watch your back, and that's the facts. You spend so much of your life scheming and trying to get over. Got you wondering why you come around. All you get is cold shoulder. Yeah. You try so hard to cover up your games. You try so hard, hoping that one day something won't change.
Hey, good evening and welcome to Normalizing Atheism. I'm Pastor Mike. Thank you for joining the stream. Tonight, just before we hit midnight, we got Mr. TJump. That's Thomas Jump, fresh off a debate. He was just over there at Modern Day Debate with James. If you guys didn't catch that, go over there and check out the debate. It's quite a long one tonight, actually. Tom holding the atheist position, and the young lady he was debating, a pantheist. Obviously, Tom destroyed. Tom is the demolisher of all things pantheism. But if you don't mind, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. And by the way, guys, I know Tom has a giant following, but Tom's link to his channel is in the description. And if you can, check out the Agatan Foundation. Agatan Foundation is a wonderful YouTube channel with many excellent, huge atheist stars. And Tom made a guest appearance on that channel, which is a huge honor, actually, because, he's up against the Dawkins, the Hitchens, the Stephen Fries. To be on that channel is a huge honor. And Tom has a video on there of all his quote-unquote mic drop moments of previous debates. Now, the video is probably about 10 months to a year old, and Tom has since done great stuff. But if you want to see a really in-depth look at some of Tom's excellent work, some of his work, check that video out. Link in the description. And again, thank you for joining the stream. We'll be going live here in just a moment.
Try so hard to cover up your games. You try so hard, hoping that one day something's gonna change.
Hey, what's going on, Tom Jump? How you doing, sir?
Not much. How are you doing? Am I right?
Hey, we got a lot of folks in the chat asking, is your chair going to be doing some talking? So got a little tiny chair logo there just in case, just got to make sure.
No one's asking that. You just made that up.
No, look, hey, check this out. I just wanted to make sure. It's all about the chair. Eddie, TJump's chair is made with platypus leather. So
it's only slightly illegal.
And I think Eddie says, I'm here for TJump's chair. Anyone else? So, hey, look, your chair gets a lot of shout-outs, man. It's kind of like Shane the Skeptic gets a lot of shout-outs for his globe. But we're not going to talk about Shane for a moment. You're going to get the spotlight tonight. So first of all, let's talk about the debate you just came off. How do you feel about that?
I always wondered what it was like to debate a Deepak Chopra generator. It was a fascinating experience.
Well, the parts that I saw, Tom, I thought you did really well. And I think James even was rolling his eyes, doing the old famous Tom eye roll at some points. Now, it got a little bit heated in the moment there in the middle. So I think the the opponent you had, she was confusing your points of view with, you got assertive at one point. I think she was confusing that with disrespect. And there's a fine line with somebody being assertive in a debate and pointing out the inconsistencies with disrespect. And I think you got into her feelings. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, partially I was totally disrespecting the nonsense she was saying. So she kind of got that right in a way.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your honesty there. Well, Tom, you've been somebody that's on the Atheist Roundtable for almost a year. You and I have gone back and forth for about a year now, and I have interviewed you in the past. So what I want to get into tonight is your excellent arguments. One of your arguments about objective morality is fantastic. You actually changed a lot of minds of atheists in the past. I know Murder Shed Steve is one of them. So we'll start with objective morality, but I also want to talk to you about why you have such a strong disbelief in gods or God. And we'll start with the objective morality part. So explain the subjective objective morality argument that you have.
The subjective objective. So my view of morality is that it's a phenomenon like any other. We have certain feelings that certain things are moral and immoral, or moral intuitions, and that if we look at the patterns of those moral intuitions, they seem to change over time in a very specific way, a very patterned way. And we can look at those patterns and try to make a principle that describes what the pattern is and how it's changing over time, and describe that with a principle, and that principle would describe what objective morality would be if it exists. And once we know what that is, we can try to infer what that principle, or what grounds that principle, like where it's located, what causes it, more or less. And that's the basis of how I get to my definition of objective morality and what I think it is.
Well, a lot of theists will have that argument that the objective morality comes from God. Let's just use the Christian argument, for example. And most atheists, and I don't want to straw man or misrepresent, but most atheists, they hold the subjective morality position. Where do you do the switcheroo here? How do you explain the objective morality without a God?
So objective morality with a God doesn't even make sense, but you can think of objective morality as a higher order emergent property, like fitness or health or anything that's a complicated thing that emerges from combinations of less complicated things. So it's just like something that's a result of how minds interact with the world. The description of the interaction between those two things is what I think morality is.
Fair enough. So your idea of like a theist saying that they're getting their objective morality from say the Christian God or the Islamic God, it's not even a logical proposition.
It doesn't make any sense at all, especially since their God mass murdered lots of people.
Yeah, and don't forget about the debate we were at there in Georgia with is it logical or moral to drown babies? Yep,
that's something that theists have to defend if they believe in the Christian God or the Abrahamic God.
Yep, absolutely. So many years ago, Tom, when you were such a young TJump, you were a believer in the Christian God at one time. So I know you started to disbelieve, but why have such a strong disbelief now? You'd consider yourself a hard atheist, right?
Sort of. I take that position for the debates. I definitely think the Christian God is false. So I'm a hard atheist in regards to the Christian God, but I don't think I'd say I'm a hard atheist on any kind of a God at all, just specific kinds of a God. The reason I left faith was because none of my prayers were ever answered, and that was before I considered anything philosophy related at all. It was just my parents were very religious, and they brought me up believing that there was this all-powerful, all-loving being who cared about you more than anything in the world. And if that's the case, having someone experience major depression and no happiness and not having anything help you, or not having that thing help you, stopped me from being able to believe there was an all-loving being. But years after that, when I started to get into philosophy, I wrote an epistemology and model of morality. And I just used theism as a way to contrast a good epistemology with a bad epistemology, because theism brings up all the same topics that you would address in a regular epistemology and morality. And you can contrast how bad the theistic models are to the model you're presenting as a way to show how yours is more effective. And in that respect, the reason I hold that my epistemology debunks theism is because it provides a criterion to differentiate true knowledge from false knowledge, just tell us a way to differentiate imagination from reality, and shows that theism can't provide that, in which case theism is no different from any pseudoscience that just makes stuff up, in which that's why there's no evidence for God, is because they haven't provided a method that could actually show that what they're claiming is not just an imaginary made up concept in their heads.
You know, I liked what you did in Braxton's video, or what you did with Braxton's video. You kind of highlighted this point here with that 10 questions to atheists, I think it was. But just a back step here, 1 second. J. Michael from Axioms on Trial asks the question, TJump claims he has done away with oughts, but it seems involuntary impositions on will is a normative conclusion. Why ought I hold that normative standard?
Well, it's not a normative conclusion. You can just understand it by asking, like, is something moral because we ought to do it, or ought we do it because it's moral based on some independent standard, just the standard Euthyphro dilemma. Something isn't moral because we ought to do it. We ought to do it because it's moral based off of some standard. So once we know what the standard is and we know what objective morality is, then we just apply the ought language to it. We say, well, now here we know, here's the facts of morality. Therefore, we say we ought to do it because we want to be moral typically. But the oughts themselves have nothing to do with the morality. You can know what objective morality is without ever referencing the oughts. The oughts are just something we add in after, once we know what morality is, to state that because we want to be moral beings, we ought to do this.
Gotcha. Well, Secular Rarity said he enjoyed your video today that went, well, no longer today, but yesterday on the Cosmic Skeptic questions. Great video, by the way. Excellent thumbnail, Tom, whoever designed
Thank you. It was definitely not Pasta Mike. I think Oz designed it. Oz definitely designed it.
Well, if Oz designed it, then that is fantastic. Then there is a God. There's a God. If he did it, I'll pray to that God. So, yes, I would agree. Now, going back to the you leaving the belief, you have a pretty good epistemology. I like your epistemology. How do you explain to a theist like Eddie, for example, as somebody that claims to have superior knowledge to most in epistemology, that they come to a different conclusion than you? They're still believing in a God.
How do I explain that? His epistemology is flawed.
Yeah,
that would be how I'd think that the theistic epistemology usually uses a much lower standard of evidence as a justification. So, for example, you would say testimony could justifiably make belief in the resurrection possible, and that's clearly not the case. Like if I told you I saw a unicorn, nothing I could tell you about my testimony would be sufficient. You would need some additional information, some empirical basis. And accepting the testimony that I saw a unicorn would be unreasonable. The same thing would be true about the resurrection. Accepting the truth of the resurrection based off of testimony is a epistemology that doesn't accurately differentiate imagination from reality, because we know testimony makes up lots of stuff that is just fake. So testimony is not a reliable way to differentiate imagination from reality. And the fact that theists accept that because they need to, because most of their beliefs come from a book from thousands of years ago, shows the weaknesses of their epistemology as opposed to a more rigorous one that defines evidence as a reliable way to differentiate imagination from reality. Sure.
Now, are you familiar with Bayesian epistemology?
Yes, it's stupid.
Okay, well, we'll segue away from the Bayesian epistemology.
Well, actually, I would like to talk about that a little bit. So, Bayesian epistemology, the way it assesses evidence is it compares the validity of a hypothesis to the negation of the hypothesis. It says, let's say we see some evidence, there's a gold brick in your house, and we know that leprechauns like gold bricks. So that gold brick being in your house is easier to explain if there's a leprechaun that exists and it put the gold brick there, if there's a leprechaun that lives in your house. So the gold brick being in your house would be evidence of the hypothesis there is a leprechaun, because if there's a leprechaun, it's more likely that a gold brick would exist in your house than if there was no leprechaun. Leprechauns didn't exist. So that's just comparing What Bayesian epistemology does is it compares the evidence to a hypothesis versus the negation of the hypothesis without considering the alternatives. And that is a very cheap way in a debate to claim that you have evidence of your hypothesis, because it's just, well, if there's nothingness, like if God created the universe or nothingness existed, well, then obviously a universe would be more expectable if there was a God rather than there was nothingness. Therefore, the universe is evidence of a God, just like a gold brick is evidence of a leprechaun. That measure of evidence is very cheap. It doesn't tell you anything, because it would apply to anything. If there's a magical leprechaun, then the universe would be more likely. And so the universe is equally as evidence of magical leprechauns. So the correct way to assess evidence is to compare alternative hypotheses. Is God more likely than like a quantum field? No, quantum field defeats him in every time. Just like a gold brick being in your house is better explained by people like gold than by leprechauns. So it's not actually evidence of a leprechaun. It's evidence that people like gold. And so you have to compare the alternative hypotheses in conjunction without assessing each hypothesis individually versus its negation to have a real understanding of evidence. And that's a failure of the way theists use Bayesian epistemology.
Well, you explained that really well. Now, I'm only just now getting into Bayesian epistemology. Actually, Eddie Kroom put me onto it. It's new to me. I'm just now learning about it. So I'll take your word on that, Tom. I'm going to fact check you on that, but you obviously seem to go off the top of the dome on it. So I'm assuming you're well versed. Hey, correct me or Eddie in the chat, comments on what Tom just said. I think it sounded logical to me. Now, Tom, what would it take for you to change your position on the Christian God or the Islamic God?
Money. Just give me enough money and I will convert.
So it's a financial thing. Well,
hot blondes work too. Hot blondes or money, either one is sufficient. But
yeah.
From an epistemological standpoint, what would make it reasonable to believe in a God is if you could make novel testable predictions to demonstrate that the God is not just imaginary. So you need a method to differentiate imagination from reality. The only one that works is novel testable predictions. So you need novel testable predictions that are confirmed under your God hypothesis to make it reasonable to believe in a God, given my epistemology.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take a second here. I think J. Mike has some more. He says, my main issue is that it seems we avoid the descriptive to normative gap by just stating what the normative standard is. But I need glasses, by the way, Tom, but I'm not sure what stops me from asserting any other normative conclusion. That's more of a statement than a question. Hold on, let me get the question here. What stops me from saying impositions on will is the best possible world, given my value is that humans disrupt the natural world, and thus I value impositions on will?
I'm not sure I understand that. So my position is that there are no oughts. You just get rid of the oughts. The oughts don't matter. There's something that we add after the fact. We can know what morality is without ever using an ought whatsoever. There are just no oughts in any descriptive of what morality is. And then we humans just add in oughts later. We say, okay, here's what's moral. We want to be moral, therefore we ought to do this. The oughts make no difference to the morality. They change nothing about the morality whatsoever. And the reason we pick a particular definition of morality over another is the same reason we pick a particular definition of any word. The word refers to a phenomenon that we experience in the world, and we're trying to describe that phenomenon, which is why, like, gravity refers to the thing that caused stuff to fall and not blue potatoes. So morality would be the same thing. Morality refers to a specific phenomenon, which is the thing, whatever is causing our moral intuitions and moral progress. And whatever is causing those is the fundamental nature of what morality is, regardless of what your particular moral intuitions might be.
Okay. So hopefully that answers the question there, J. Mike. Now, Christian Bible, Islamic Quran, both of them, are they equally as illogical to you, or is one of them more of a believable thing, or does it even matter?
Say that again. Is the Quran or the Bible more believable?
Like, if let's say you're new to Earth, you and I are both, we've never seen religion before, and we come across a Muslim and a Christian, and they try and pitch to us what these religions are. Is one of these religions more believable than the other?
I mean, I'd say certain versions are more believable than the other. Like the ones like Islam doesn't say God is perfectly good. It says God is evil. And so in that way, Islam is probably less ridiculous than Christianity, which claims God is all good. Because admitting your God is all evil and kills people is perfectly coherent. Admitting your God, or claiming your God is perfectly good and kills people is a harder pill to swallow. So it's much more reasonable to believe in Islam because it doesn't have fundamental contradictions in the nature of the God. At least that one isn't a fundamental contradiction.
I understand. Now, I often hear Muslims say, you know, some of the things like the triune Jesus thing is illogical. And then I hear Christians say things like flying horses up to the moon is illogical. What do you think when you hear things like that? Because to me, the whole thing is illogical from my perspective. So how
for sure. Those kinds of strange magical stuff are definitely ridiculous, but just like a talking snake or a talking donkey or a rib woman, like, yeah, there's lots of ridiculous things in Christianity too. But those I don't think are nearly as significant as the fundamental contradictions in the nature of the God being, which I think are more significant in assessing which is more a ridiculous claim.
Fair enough. Okay, so you're coming from which sect of Christianity?
Protestant, I think.
And that was just by default of parents?
Yeah, I was born into it.
Yep, so no choice at all. Now, do we choose our beliefs, Tom?
Depends what you mean by choose. Like, obviously, we're all determined, so no. But if choose, you're some compatibilist and think just choices your brain functioning normally, then sort of.
I sometimes struggle with this myself, right? So if I tell you something, I have a Lamborghini, and you don't know too much about me. Do you have a choice to believe that, or are you convinced, or does that even matter? Is that just semantics or linguistics?
It depends on your view of choice. Like if that definition of choice is just your brain operating as a brain does, then sure, you have a choice just because you define the brain as doing that, even though you're determined by prior causes. But I definitely think ultimately you're determined by stuff in the nature of reality that shapes the way your brain was or developed, and that determines whether or not you believe it.
Gotcha. Do you ever see yourself teaching the arguments that you have for atheism, like maybe in colleges rather than debating?
Sort of. So I already offer like classes in philosophy on, like, for my subscribers or whatever, pay me $100 a month or whatever, and I'll teach you philosophy and set up debates for you and stuff on my Discord. So I'm definitely open to that. I don't know if I'd ever be hired by a college without a degree or whatever, but I'd be open to it for sure.
Well, surely the things you do online is like it's a walking, talking resume. You know, like somebody that's willing to hire you can easily look at your body of work. Hence the Agaton Foundation video in the link, guys, in the description. So, Tom, let's talk about your aspirations to be the president. You want to talk about that? You want to be the president one day? Talk to me, man.
Sure. Yeah, I think that all politicians are idiots, morons. There's very easy solutions to many of the biggest problems, and they're just too corrupt to do it. And so, yeah, I'd like to be president so I could actually fix the stupid politics things.
Religion and the presidency. Do you think we'll ever see an atheist or secular president?
Definitely. Given enough time, there will definitely be a secular president, just like a woman president and a trans president. And there will probably be a different kind of presidents, alien presidents. We'll see all kinds eventually.
Alien president, I'm skeptical about. I'll tell you that, but I do hope to one day see secular, somebody that's openly secular, because you never know that there may have been somebody that's secular or a non-believer that's been through there. We just won't know because of the intimidation of being able to say it openly. That's why normalizing atheism is so important. Now, recently there was a video conference with a lot of secular groups with the current President Biden, and First Amendment. What's your views on the current climate with this?
Current climate with secularism in politics right now?
Yes. Like, for example, we had Donald Trump recently, who was kind of he'd be considered like a blasphemous type of. He's a Christian. He would tell people he's Christian, but he's very blasphemous in his approach. And now you've got Mr. Biden, who is more of a, I guess you'd consider him quite of a private kind of guy, and when it comes to his religion, but he's also quite open to having a relationship with the secular humanists. So what are your hopes when it comes to the community that we have and the government, maybe?
I think Biden isn't trustworthy at all. Like, most of his issues are simply political. So like, he has openly advocated for many like SJW woke ideology stuff, but when he passes bills, they're all garbage bills. It doesn't do anything. So most of his actions in those kinds of communities are more for show and not actually to make a real impact. So I don't think trusting the actions of Biden is a good idea. I think it's more just for show. I don't think there's any value in his actions.
Fair enough. Now, I do have a quick comment from Aunt Kathy. This is Oz's actual aunt. She's a sweet lady. She says she's trying to learn everybody in the community. Is TJump the one who went to school to be a Christian minister?
No,
definitely not. I just didn't want to take away that opportunity for you to say no. TJump is not the one who went to school to be a Christian minister.
Was that Deadpool?
Well, Deadpool got a degree in theology, I believe. I get a BA in that.
Well, there's usually only one job for
that. But shout out to Aunt Kathy. So I hope one day that you're president, and I'll vote for you, TJump.
Put that on the side note. Do not genocide normalizing atheism. Okay.
Hey, can I run your campaign? Can I run the ads, maybe?
Yes, that'll be hilarious.
Yeah, I'll do the ad camp. You've seen the movie The Campaign with Will Ferrell, and
yep.
If you haven't seen it, you just don't slap any babies. That's all, or punch any babies. Now, TJump, the Jumpster. 5 years from now, what's TJump going to be doing?
Probably the same thing. Not much different. Hopefully something different. But the goal would be to build up an organization partnership with you guys and Tang and the other atheist groups and do lots of live debates and to build up a atheist debate community, start teaching, build a debate curriculum. Hopefully the goal would be to go that route and have a much larger integrated atheist community of live debates regularly all across the country, hopefully the world. Write my books, publish the books. That would be, I guess, the business side of things, the business goals.
Well, the good news is you won't even be 40, which is depressing for me, but good for you. A book deal will be fantastic, and doing some traveling. We've got a couple of things coming up in August, I think. You're going to be going to Indiana to do a live event, speaking and debate, I believe, right?
I don't know. Oz didn't tell any of the speakers that we were actually going until after he set it up. So we're going. We're doing stuff, but...
Well, from what I understand, Oz has mentioned he's got you and Anthony Magnabosco confirmed, and he got a couple other folks, but I'd be surprised if you and Anthony Magnabosco are debating one another. I can tell you that. That'd be interesting. But I'm going to go back to this question because I know Secular Rarity is a supporter of the channel here. So Secular Rarity says, ask Tom about Scientology and Mormonism. Which one is more well-founded?
Well-founded, like reasonable, or well-funded as in money?
Oh, you know what? It might be funded, and it might. That's what.
Founded. Scientology or Mormonism, like they're both completely nuts. So I don't know how to assess which one is less nuts. They're both super dumb. Like you got the magic underplants or the nuking the volcanoes, and everybody is a god. It's not an easy call. You know when two religions are
are bad when other religious people who believe in dogmatic things call them dumb. But J. Mike says he will debate you on moral realism.
That's cool.
I'm going to pretend like I know what that is. So hopefully you can debate him on that. So Dr. Josh has a new book, and he's written 2 books now, I believe. Do you see yourself doing something like that, or what would your book be on?
Yeah, I already have a book deal. I'm working with Samuel Nassan. We're doing a debate on which better explains objective morality, theism or atheism.
So Samuel still wants to do business with you after how many times have you crushed him in these debates? He's a nice guy.
He said we've debated 6 times so far. We were supposed to debate a 7th time for the Malaysia conference a few weeks ago, but Jim Majors backed out or didn't show up in time. So it was just me and Jonathan McLatchie. We debated.
Well, he's a good guy. So Tom, we're gonna go into the deep stuff here now. Name some debates that you've had where you felt that they've been pretty reasonably tough and you've been on your game recently.
Tough debates. I mean, I guess the Rob Coons one would probably be the toughest one. He's very smart, so he's a hard one. Or my conversations with Richard Brown from his YouTube channel. I forget what it is, the consciousness one.
Now, Robert Coons holds what position?
He's a theist Thomist. It's kind of a ridiculous position, but he's smart enough to defend it.
Well, you and I once talked about William Lane Craig in the sense that we don't have to agree with a person's position to appreciate that they're a good debater. So that's really the point here. So you do run into people sometimes that you debate that are just better than others, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was not like William Lane Craig. He was actually like extremely intellectual. His arguments were hard to deal with, hard to think about and address at the same time because they were very intellectual. So that was he was probably the model of a good debater, what I would consider. Sure.
So you don't really do much prep. You have a lot of stuff up top, off the top of your head, right, when you debate, or do you have stuff written down?
I used to write stuff down, but pretty much not anymore. Mostly it's just off the cuff, pretty much.
Well, I hear a lot of your opponents talk about how fast you are, and that's kind of like an intimidating thing to them, is like you're very quick off the draw. So I don't think you don't come across like you use it disingenuously, but do you think that that's an advantage?
The fast talking, I guess. I don't know.
Well, just simply being able to articulate your points quickly without using pauses and and ahhing, for example. You can get your point across very quickly. Some people find that to be intimidating.
Maybe, I guess. Not sure. Like, I think more just understanding. Maybe it makes it harder for them to pick up on the main points fast enough, but I hope that I can communicate my main points clearly enough that isn't an issue. But I guess if I could talk fast and like obscure my main points in the minutia of what I'm saying, that would definitely be a debate advantage because they wouldn't be able to find out what I'm trying to say.
Sure. What's some of the more convincing arguments for theism that you find?
The best argument for theism is the Hindu prediction of the age of the Earth, which is 4.3 billion or whatever. That's actually a really good prediction. That's the best novel prediction than any religious claim I've ever seen. And so I think that's actually a really good thing that would actually count as evidence. Of course, there's a whole bunch of wrong stuff in there too, but that's probably the best evidence that any religion has by a huge margin.
Now, is it simply just a coincidence, though, or is there some facts in there to back it up?
No, it's just a coincidence. They just made it up.
So okay. So I don't know if you're being facetious here or not. Is that simply just because it's the only thing that's the closest to reality? That's why it's the best argument?
Well, it's a novel testable prediction. So they say that I think my religion is true, and my religion predicts the world is 4.3 billion years ago because of some relation to the dreams of Brahman or whatever. So they've made up this system, and the system happens to correspond to reality. Now, if they could make a lot of those accurately, that would be really good evidence. The fact that there's only one means it's not very good evidence, and it's most likely a coincidence. But that coincidence, that they made a correct, accurate, testable prediction, it's still an accurate, testable prediction, which was right. So it's still technically evidence. It's still technically the best evidence that any theist has, even though it's just a lucky guess.
Okay. So when you see, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean to misrepresent any theist in the audience right now, but when you see people who are clearly intelligent, take doctors, for example, surgeons, who are also believers in deities. There's obviously many Muslim surgeons, many Christian surgeons, many Christian scientists. When you see these individuals, why do you think they hold on to a belief if the arguments are not logical, for example? Like what's keeping them holding on to a belief that you and I don't, for example?
Personal experience. Like, they experienced God in their life when they prayed or when they needed some help. They experienced the successes they needed. So like, when I was praying for my depression, if I was cured and gotten the things I needed to be happy, I would still be a Christian. And there's no way anybody could convince me otherwise, because if I prayed to a God to give me the things I needed and I actually got them, there's no way you could convince me otherwise. I don't care how bad the evidence would be.
Now, surely though, you and I can construct our own, we can go down a pathway of what's logical. Even if I had an experience, I could still come to a conclusion it might not be true. Some people will really hold on to a deep belief, and it just baffles me sometimes. And I have a hard time differentiating between geography, parents, influential individuals growing up. And I often question how they can let go of that, other than just simply those things I just mentioned. Or could we be simply wrong?
So the reason people mostly hold on to religious beliefs is emotional reasons. Like, you have personal experiences that are very powerful, and so you believe that when you prayed, God spoke to you. And if you do that a lot and you experience God speaking to you a lot, or what you think is God speaking to you, that's a very powerful reason to think God exists, even though it's clearly psychological. And overcoming that psychological bias purely by thinking about it is extremely hard. I wouldn't be able to do it. So I definitely can't judge them for doing it.
Okay. And I was going to ask you earlier as well, who do you admire currently, that's currently living in the atheist community that's making waves? Who's somebody that you look up to?
Well, I don't admire anybody, so that's one thing I've been asked a lot. Like, there's no one I admire or look up to. I'm more interested in ideas than people. But I mean, so I don't know really how to answer that question. Like,
can I reframe it then? Because in fairness to you, I may have misused the term then. So if you're looking on YouTube and you see an atheist speaker or atheist content, what is something that gets your attention and you find to be positive and you actually like it? You want to subscribe to it. You may feel a certain type of way. It may inspire you. It may make you want to make your own content.
I mean, I guess logical positions that go against the emotional side of like the more woke SJW community. I think bringing up logical arguments against that community is something that is very risky in the atheist community, and I admire people who do take stances against that because they are so demonized. Okay,
that's pretty cool. And what about on the other end of the spectrum? For example, I know you're cool with Samuel, and I met you guys in person, and Samuel is actually a really nice guy. Eddie is a cool guy. But are there any like folks on the theist or deist side that you feel like you could collaborate with in the future?
Yeah, sure. Lots of them. I'm happy to collaborate with pretty much everybody I've debated with, even the more ridiculous ones. I don't think there's anybody I don't like or wouldn't collaborate with. I except in like certain contexts. Like I'd be happy to use Jay Dyer as a punching bag in a debate, but I wouldn't help.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want his help to like actually set up an event. But like Samuel, I'd definitely be confident in having him help set up an event because he's done it before. And I'd definitely be happy to debate with anybody who I've debated with in the past, I think.
That's cool. So who are the no-goes? Like you've debated some folks where you've seemed a little more frustrated than others. Who are the people that you just don't want to not only debate, you just don't want to work with again? You don't want to stream with them. You don't want to meet them in person.
I don't think there's anybody like that. Like I'd be happy to meet Jay Dyer in person. I'd definitely be happy to debate him again because I got so many views. Money is good.
That was a pretty good stream. I like the way it was set up. It was almost like a sports night, sport event.
Yeah, the blood sports, that guy got banned off YouTube for lots of reasons.
I'm sure he was pushing the envelope.
Yep.
Yeah, but I can see that you're business oriented. You don't take things too personally. You just want to get out there and do this for the cause, which is the TJump mortgage, rent, and hot blonde fund. Just don't forget. Hey, by the way, guys, TJump's YouTube channel is in the description, and the YouTube channel takes you to his links like the Patreon and the Twitch. What's your favorite one, Tom? What's the best one to go to?
YouTube.com/TJump. That's the best one.
Yeah, because you can join the channel as well, right? You can join the YouTube. Yeah, you pick several tiers, but you've also got a Patreon. Have you got now?
I do have merch now. I got a cool little mug, got my logo on it, and my chair on it.
Oh,
I also got shirts and stuff because I got people who actually do that professionally to set them up for me.
that's cool. And where can they find this stuff?
Links in the description of my YouTube channels. I don't actually memorize the links because they're very long and annoying. There's like a link tree thing.
Okay. And what sizes are you making? Are you making sizes for Murder Shed Steve, for example? He's very slim.
No, it doesn't come in a women's size 0.
So you don't do the 0. Now Eddie is quite heavy set up top, but he's got very short legs. So you're doing like for small people, for lack of a better term?
Don't have any pants, so the pants aren't an issue. He can just wear them down to his knees. It'll be fine.
Okay, so
but I think he's more like, he wears like a medium. He likes medium shirts that like to tightly fit, hug the man boobs.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say it's a medium, but I'm sure he might. He says TJump smirking with some reason. Now, guys, if you join TJump's channel, if you go on over there to the YouTube or Patreon, what are they getting that the free folks aren't getting? What's special about joining?
Access to Pasta Mike's OnlyFans.
Well, hey, you may want your money back for that because there's not much going on. No, are they getting anything special, Tom? Are you making any special content?
They become mods on my Discord, and that's if you sign up on Patreon or YouTube, but that's about it.
Well, Tom, you and I need to get together and make some special content that goes in your members only. Do you have a lot of members on your YouTube?
About half as many as I do on Patreon, I think.
So, well, we need to make some special content for you, and I'll help you out with that. So you can go over to your Patreon so that your supporters can see some stuff that the free folks don't, and maybe it might encourage some more folks over there. Either way, whether you get content or not, go and support Tom. It keeps him in business. It'll keep him debating. It'll keep his couch clean. And what do you clean that couch with, by the way?
The tears of theists.
Theist tears, which are surprisingly sodium free. There's not that much sodium in theist tears, believe it or not.
There's a ton of sodium. They are very salty. They're salty individuals.
Oh, well, Nate Game thinks that you're really funny. He said that you're one of his favorite. Well, Tom and I are getting ready to wrap it up. But if you guys have any questions for Tom, drop them in the chat, and I'm going to ask Tom a couple more questions here. And guys, drop them. Put a Q in front of it, and please like this stream if you can. It'll help the community out. Now, Tom, when you first came onto YouTube, tell me what you felt your objectives were, because you've been on YouTube now for a couple of years, and you're almost at like 10K, which is great, and it's growing fast. So what were your objectives when you first came onto YouTube?
Money and hot blondes.
Well, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed there, but your quality has grown. You've developed quite a skill set.
Yep. I've had my mic was donated to me. My camera was donated to me. My video editing was donated from Ben Smith recently for the 2 edited videos I have. So yeah, quality is improving thanks to the audience, supporters and followers, guys.
Well, you're actually pretty talented yourself. I just feel that you like to have things done for yourself. You're sneaky like that. You're a little sneaky guy.
I think lazy is the correct term.
Well, I was being polite. So you're getting things donated to you. That's fantastic. And it just means people like to see what you're doing. But when you first came on YouTube, what was your agenda? Did you come on to do atheist debates, or did you have something else in mind?
I mean, it was seriously the hot blondes and money. This is a job that I could do that didn't involve real work, because I hate spending time with other human beings. But my strategy was mostly to use my epistemology and contrast it to theism to show why my methodology worked better as like a groundwork for building an epistemology and debate community kind of a thing.
Well, Tom, in fairness to you, you've said this quite a few times, and I can't disbelieve you. I do actually believe you, because in fairness, if somebody has a condition where they struggle, social anxieties and things, it's a real thing. But it was very odd, because meeting you in person, you're quite the social butterfly. You wouldn't shut the hell up, and you drank everyone under the table. So I'm like, is he lying, or is he just really good at hiding it? So he's different in person.
I'm definitely really good at hiding it. I've had practice, many years of practice, with still no success with the only things that matter to me.
Well, you're very fun to be around in person, and I enjoyed your company that one time. But there's a question here, Tom. What does pasta smell like in studio?
A combination of dirty socks, musty hair, old shaving cream, and a little bit of J-Mike.
God damn it. J-Mike, get out of my studio. God damn it. Okay, let's see. If TJump had to invent a religion more successful than Christianity, how would he do it?
That's a tough one. Like, Christianity is probably the most successful religion. So to invent something more successful than religion, you'd probably have to start with a morality that beats Christianity out and build off of that. But it would probably take many thousands of years.
Let's see. Well, Miss Tuna, thank you. By the way, Miss Tuna, thank you for always commenting and liking the videos. It's always cool to see somebody paying the dues. Let's have a look at Eddie right here. Why a novel testable predictions needed? Wouldn't it be self-refuting if you say that statement is true without a novel testable prediction? Do you hold an a priori knowledge?
No, that's dumb. So if you want to differentiate imagination from reality, you need a method to do that. And a method to do that is novel testable predictions. The claim novel testable predictions can differentiate imagination from reality is itself an imaginary claim. So you don't need to show that claim is not imaginary, because it's an imaginary claim. So if you have conceptual principles, those conceptual principles don't need to be shown to be non-conceptual, but you do need to use conceptual principles to create some methodology to show something is non-conceptual. There's no contradiction there. The reason you need novel testable predictions is because that's what works. There's lots of long history of science to why that is, that you need something that can predict the future and not just explain the past. Post hoc reasoning doesn't work. Anything can do it. There's lots of reasons, but that was the main one.
Okay. Well, shut up, Eddie. I hope that answered your question. Let's see what Aunt Kathy says. Does TJump deem a belief in something greater than humanity necessary? I believe that's what she meant.
No.
Okay.
I mean, like, believe the universe exists. The universe is greater than humanity, I guess.
I think you just converted Eddie in your response. Yeah. You even told him he was dumb, and he agreed with you. It was great. Good job, man. We're making waves. Well, guys, a couple more questions, and Tom's meter. I do validate parking, by the way, Tom. So Tom's meter is about to go off there. Tom, real quick. Okay, if you and I were going to go to pick up Murder Shed Steve from He lives in the upper echelon of Minnesota, right? He's not in the shitty part where you and I live. He
lives in the forest. He lives in a murder shed in the forest.
He lives in the forest. Okay. So if we go and pick up Murder Shed Steve, where are we going for dinner?
So I do lots of different food places. My favorite is probably Ruth's Chris, but I'd probably go myself and just leave you guys at McDonald's.
Well, damn, Tom, that's cold, man. So you're going to go to Ruth's Chris. Are you also, have you taken my credit card at this point as well? You've like pickpocketed me?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So you're going to Ruth's Chris with my bank card.
Yep.
God damn it, Tom. Okay. Well, Eddie's getting McDonald's then, I guess, because I got Eddie's card. All right. Well, so Ruth. Well, you know what? So you're definitely not a vegan. You're a meat lover. And what kind of meats do you eat?
I've been learning how to cook ribs and steak are the two main ones. Pork chops. Those are the three things that I cook personally. But I also like hamburgers and pizza and stuff.
Are you just strictly beef, or do you chop it up with some bison every now and again?
Not usually.
Oh, you haven't tried the bison yet? Okay.
Oh, I have tried it. I just don't like it as much.
Well, it's usually for the more like experienced atheist. They say
it's like, because I don't know where you could find bison ribs. Like that would be interesting. Like
the Flintstones, they eat them.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a dessert guy, and I don't know. You used to like dessert back in the day when you used to pack some pounds on you. You don't do you eat as much as you used to, or no?
Probably about the same. I just exercise a lot more. I bike 26 miles a day.
Well, you're a small guy now, very small. But what's your dessert of choice?
Cheesecake is probably on the top of the list.
Yeah, it's a good choice. So now we're talking. Are you also like desserting? Excuse the pun. Are you desserting Steve and I when you go into the Cheesecake Factory too? Are you like leaving us in the alley somewhere?
Probably. Or I guess you got to order stuff and then I'll eat it for you.
You're a bit of an asshole, Tom. I'm learning. Yeah, bit of a jerk. So TJump is a bit of an asshole to his friends, guys, but great debater. So we're on to the last segment. Tom, where can folks see you up and coming? What's going on next?
I think I have a debate Friday with somebody on my channel. Like the next 3 Fridays or Saturdays or something. I don't actually check my schedule. I just put stuff on there and then check it the day of, and then that's how I remember what I'm supposed to do.
Well, you show up and you do what you're supposed to do. That's the main thing. You hope that the person who's holding the debate does the promotion, which is cool. You make people work for you. If you go to Tom's channel, I'm sure you'll see who he's debating on Friday. So we got a debate on Friday. Do you know what the debate topic is?
Just reasons to believe in God. So it's definitely one I'm hosting. So there's zero promotion for it, and you won't find it until it goes live on Friday.
Nothing wrong with that. And one of the things I like about you, Tom, is that you will always premiere the shows that you go on, and it's a big help to whatever small content creator you go and chat with. It worked for Eddie. It helped Tart. I don't know how many times. Axiom's on trial. The shit is tremendous. So content creators like yourself always help the little guys out. So we appreciate that. Any wise words for any theists out there that are looking to debate atheists like yourself?
Pay me $50.
Okay, $50, guys. That's $50 US, and wire it to Tom. How can they get you that $50?
I think paypal.me/TomJump. I don't actually remember the exact link, but it's linked somewhere on my YouTube channel somewhere.
And that's a pretty good deal, guys, because as Eddie will tell you, and anyone that's had like Dr. Richard Carrier on their show, or some of these other names, and look at Tom. Tom is more handsome than some of these guys, and he'll tell you straight up how he feels about you, and he'll tell you that he'll leave you in the alleyway and stuff. $50 is pretty damn good. Shout out to Nate Game over there at the Crash the Party podcast. Shout out to Dan from Dear Christians podcast, guys. All these Christian folks in the chat. The Brute Facts podcast. Eddie Kroom, Axioms on Trial. J. Mike, Miss Tuna, the best supporter of this channel, and don't forget Secular Rarity and Aunt Kathy. Thank you guys for joining the chat. And Tom and I are about to go over to the Atheist hot tub and take some. Well, we don't have hot blondes. I can't lie about that. Tom, thank you for coming on, man. I greatly appreciate your time and your candid chat with me. And I will see you on the flip side, my friend.
Yep. Thanks for having me on as always. I'll talk to you. Are you going to the thing in Illinois?
Yeah, I think you mean Indiana.
One of the I states.
So I'm actually unable to make the trip. I was hoping to, but I'm house hunting at the moment. So August, I believe, will be when I'm moving into a new house. So unfortunately, but I will be making, if Oz does this on a reoccurring basis, if he does a few of them, then it's a done deal. I'll be doing all of the future ones.
Cool.
Yeah, man. So Tom, thank you again, my friend.
Yep. Thanks for having me on. I'll talk to you later.
See you on the flip.
Ashamed, think something new under the sun. You can't take back them things you already done. No. You blame things that you do on somebody else. No. But they all see is you need help. But still you try so hard to cover up your games. You try so hard, hoping that one day something gon' change. You waste all of your time covering up your tracks.